At Crimson Lights, Connor and Chelsea chat about his day off school. Connor assures her it's not throwing him off as he's using the techniques his counselor suggested. Sally comes in and Connor calls out to her. He says he misses her, and he knows his dad does too. Just because they're not together anymore doesn't mean they can't be friends. Right, Mom? Chelsea says of course, though Sally's busy these days. Sally assures him she always has time for friends. Connor announces he has to meet his friend, hugs Sally and leaves. Chelsea tells the redhead she's sorry. She knows this is very difficult. Sally is coping and moving on. Chelsea compliments her new line and Sally tells her to stop. She doesn't feel like pretending. It's enough already. Chelsea tells Sally they're colleagues and she wants to get along. Sally can feel her guilt, and her compliments seem like pity for the losing team. Chelsea protests. Sally doesn't find it easy to be around her, but she will try to keep things civil. Chelsea promises to keep her praise in check. Sally tells Chelsea she doesn't hate her. What happened wasn't all on her, but right now she isn't sure she can forgive either of them. At Society, Billy puts in a call to Jack and tells him he's on his way over. As he disconnects and heads to the exit, Adam comes in. He asks, "What is it now, Billy?" Billy says, "You just couldn't help yourself, could you?" He complains about the drivel he released about mayhem at Abbott Chancellor. There was nothing truthful about it. Adam argues the place was a complete miss. Billy says they were hit pieces. Adam scoffs, "Poor Billy, always the victim." Billy knows he was acting as Victor's puppet. Adam says at least he's succeeding at his Nepo job. Billy tells him actions have consequences. Adam needles about him being out of a job, kicked out by his own mother. Would he care to comment? Billy warns Adam not to mess with him, not today. Adam says it's not his fault he doesn't have a company to run. Billy says he made him look bad to his mother. Adam brings up the making of a monster expose. Billy says that was factual. He's had a front row seat to his hit jobs over the years, including a hit and run. He tells Adam he could have shown some restraint toward his company, especially after what happened with Chelsea. Billy has one request and asks Adam to spare Chelsea from his misery. In Sharon's living room, Daniel tells her he heard about her confession. What does he want him to say? Better late than never. He asks how she could do this to Heather. How could she do this to his family? Nate intervenes but Daniel won't be deterred. He doesn't care if she admitted it, that's not enough. "I want to know why you did it. You tell me why you did it, and I don't want any more lies from you." He rages. Nick holds him back as he yells, "Tell me." Michael cautions Sharon that she doesn't have to say anything. Sharon apologizes to Daniel. She has so many regrets. Daniel hollers that Heather's dead because she had the back of her head smashed in, and now he has to deal with Sharon's being the last face she saw before she died. Sharon wails, "I didn't mean for this to happen." Daniel tells her she made life miserable for his family for weeks, and now Lucy's mother is gone. Sharon apologizes again. Nick holds Daniel back as he sees that he wants answers and won't leave until he gets them. Nick warns Daniel to calm down. Michael says it's not the time nor the place. Daniel feels Sharon owes her an explanation. She says he's right. Daniel asks if he went to their place planning to kill her. He asks why she knocked her out. Sharon doesn't remember. Daniel brings up her framing him. Did she just have so much anger and hatred for him, it just came spilling out? Michael can't allow Sharon to say anything more. Daniel doesn't think he'll stop. He'll do whatever he wants, just like Sharon's been doing. He wants to know if Sharon's pleading not guilty. Nick will answer his questions. Daniel rails that he shouldn't even be there. He should be in the hospital with his mother. He accuses Sharon of running her off the road and warns he will never forgive her for this. Nick ushers Daniel out the door to go to the hospital. Michael holds Sharon. In the motel, Jordan reads the news report on Sharon's arraignment to Ian. She's sure he's happy things are falling into place. Ian complains about how long it took her to confess. He wants to know how the family has reacted. Jordan's sure they're miserable. I&R needs facts and details, not speculation. Jordan reminds him it's dangerous for her to walk around, whereas he can roam freely. He's reformed. I&R chuckles that he can still break a law or two when he needs to. Jordan knows what I&R is capable of, but they need to talk practicality. She can't walk the streets, but he can. I&R reminds her how restricted she felt in that prison. Isn't freedom so much better? Jordan says, of course it is. He tells her to remember that clearly. He rescued her from that nightmare, so he'd like a little more respect and obedience, if you don't mind. At the Abbott mansion, Diane asks Jack if the coast is clear. Jack assures her it's just them for now. Diane says she met with Victor, who questioned her motives, but he bought it and transferred Glissade over to her free and clear. She sent the documents to Jabot's lawyers. Nothing seemed off, but she was surprised he let go of it so easily. There's something about this whole thing that doesn't sit right with her. His behavior is almost suspicious. Diane thinks she and Jack should keep their distance and maintain their feud in public until the deal goes through. Jack nods. Then they'll move on to their next step and tell Kyle he's in control of Glissade. Diane doesn't know if that's enough of a gesture. Jack thought they were in agreement. If they don't give him control of Glissade, then what is the next step? Diane points out that all the conflict stems from what happened at Jabot. She thinks they need a grand gesture to make things right. Glissade is not Jabot, and she feels like it's tainted now. She's afraid it will remind Kyle of falling victim to Victor or her firing him. What if we gave Kyle the position that deep down you know you have always wanted him to have? What if they make Kyle his co-CEO at Jabot? In the hospital, Nick tries to talk to Daniel, who doesn't want to hear it. Nick says before he goes into his mother's room, he wants him to set aside this energy. It will be bad for Summer and Phyllis. Nick enters and Summer hugs him and cries, "Where have you been?" Nick's sorry. "It's been a hell of a day." Summer says her mother won't wake up. Nick sits beside Phyllis and says he's sorry he wasn't there for her, that he didn't protect her. He shouldn't have stopped this from happening. "I know you're in there and you're going to pull through. We're all here. We're right here, Phyllis. Please come back to us." Summer tells Nick that Elena said it's a matter of waiting and watching, but there's been no change. She asks Daniel where he went. He says he went to see Sharon. Nick takes them to the waiting area to talk. He won't try to justify what Sharon did. It was horrible. Daniel still hasn't received an explanation. Nick thinks her meds played a role. Daniel complains about him making excuses and trying to get her out from under this. At Society, Adam tells Billy he'll never understand what happened in Baltimore. It wasn't calculated. He never wanted to hurt Sally. Billy guesses stabbing him in the back felt pretty good. Adam says if he'd never pressured Chelsea to confess, nobody would have gotten hurt. Billy can't believe he's still trying to blame this on him. Something happened and he's still trying to deny it. This is just who you are, isn't it? You hurt people with no regard for the consequences. When he gets caught, he lies about it. It's who he is and he's never going to change. Billy walks out. In the motel, Jordan tells I&R she's not happy about being back in this place. But it's temporary until they set things right. I&R warns her to follow his instructions. Jordan is grateful to him, but she doesn't take orders from him any more than he does from her. I&R marvels that she views this as an equal partnership. Jordan is grateful for the identity swap that got her out of prison, but he got something out of it too. Focus. Purpose. Certainly that puts us on an equal level, don't you think? At the Abbott mansion, Jack can't ask Diane to give up the position she worked so hard for. Diane is offering. She wants to convince Kyle of their good intentions. She can't live with herself if this was all for nothing. Jack asks what her role would be in this new scenario. Diane is going to get exactly what she is entitled to and nothing less. You need to be prepared to pay and pay dearly. I am not leaving this marriage empty-handed. Jack realizes that Billy has come in and plays along, telling Diane to stay away from the house and Kyle and Harrison. Diane fumes, "You will regret this, Jack," and walks out. Billy had no idea things were this bad. Your marriage is really over. Michael meets Christine at the club. She says he looks terrible. He tells her to be grateful that her name is no longer linked to Heather's murder case. Christine says his is. She did start to wonder if Phyllis was right about Sharon, but now that it's true, she's having a hard time believing it. Michael complains that she may also be responsible for Phyllis' accident. I adore Phyllis. Lauren is worried sick about her. Chris says she was at the hospital earlier. It's terrible what happened to her. Michael quips that if she wakes up, she might kill him for defending Sharon. He muses that she's been silenced by the woman she accused of murder. It's one more crime he'll have to justify in court. Chris notes he's in a tough spot. They hope for Phyllis' kids' sake she'll be okay. Christine wonders how Sharon went so far off the deep end. In the hospital, Daniel fumes at Nick for trying to build an insanity defense for Sharon. Nick asks if he really thinks she was in her right mind when she killed Heather, dumped her body, and planted evidence to frame him. Daniel says they should have listened to his mom. She murdered Cameron Kirsten and left Phyllis at the bottom of a stairwell. It's really not a stretch. Nick thinks her bipolar disorder is playing a role in this. Daniel fumes that he wants to get her off the hook. The reason is their history, mine and Sharon's. This all goes back to Cassie. At Sharon's place, she tells Maria she is all over the place. After she confessed, she felt calm and resolved. It was exhausting keeping the truth in. Maria asks why it took so long. Sharon was terrified. But after Phyllis' accident she couldn't go on. It was a relief to confess. Maria says she doesn't seem at ease. Sharon says that's because Daniel was there. Seeing his pain and rage reminded her of how horrible it was. Mariah can't understand how she could have done this. Sharon says, neither do I. In the motel, Ian concedes that Jordan gave him a renewed sense of purpose. They make a pretty good team. As her partner, he is asking her to slip away and try to find out the emotional state of Sharon's daughters. Jordan says it's a risk for her. He tells her to dig deep in her bag of disguises. Jordan won't let him down. Ian is confident she'll find a way to complete her mission without too many more casualties. At the hospital, Daniel goes over how many times Sharon threw Cassie's death in his face. Nick says that was wrong. Sharon hasn't been herself for weeks. Daniel tells him to go ahead and blame Sharon's meds if that's what he needs to go. Summer takes exception to her father defending Sharon. Maybe she was messed up psychologically, but that doesn't excuse the horrible things she's done. Daniel vows she will pay. She is going to do hard time in prison, and I'm not going to settle for anything less. Walking back into Phyllis' room, Daniel looks at his mom with concern.